welcome back to another edition of the Hiking Journal. In today's episode, this is going to be the second part of my adventure into the San Mateo Canyon Wilderness and my overnight camp in my hammock at the Fisherman's Camp. Anyway, stick around. That'll be coming up next on this edition of the Hiking Journal. Well, if I didn't know any better, I would say this is wild grape. Because we used to have grapevines in our backyard. We had a Chardonnay and a Merlot and a Cabernet grape along our back fence when we first moved out to Temecula. And that's what this looks like. It looks like a wild grapevine. Very lush down here. Even though they don't get a lot of water down here in the San Mateo Creek drainage, must be enough to, keep these things alive. And it looks like the rain has moved off and the sun has come out here at Fisherman's Camp. But the setting sun is starting to set into the west, and darkness is going to be falling over here in the canyon here in about another hour or so. And the temperature has begun to drop, so I think I'm going to head back over to camp and get my mountain house cooking. There are some really healthy populations of poison oak down here and along the San Mateo Creek. Looks like it's thriving and doing well. So if you never knew what poison oak looked like, before you come out here, I would definitely take a couple of peeks at some videos and familiarize yourself with poison oak, because you don't want to be camping near it or on it and find out, a few days later that you've been exposed. And I noticed this. I wonder if this is a game trail. This could very well be where deer come down out of the high elevations and work their way down to the creek to get water at night. Could very well be a spot where they come through. Maybe I'll get lucky and see one in camp tonight. Well, it's about 6 o'clock, and I think it's about time for the mountain house. This is going to be mountain house chicken teriyaki, and I went ahead and poured, it says 13 ounces of water, so it's not quite 2 cups of water. But this is the partial fill was boiling and the other part of it was not, so I've got to get this to a full rolling boil. So in the meantime, I've got the stove fired up again. We've got plenty of fuel. And I'm going to cover this so it comes to a boil a little faster. And then I'm going to heat up my chicken teriyaki. I've had this before on a backpack trip. It's actually pretty good. So I'm going to try that here in a little bit before it gets too late and it gets too dark. I do have a headlamp I did bring. I brought a little small flashlight as well. And I also brought a candle lantern. So I can do the candle lantern over by the hammock just for some ambient light tonight as it starts to get dark. And then if I need to shoot some serious distance, I can use my flashlight, because it's a 1,000 lumen small little flashlight. That's for when the mountain lions come. Hopefully they won't. And then also I have another light I brought for just a little headlamp for around camp. And so I should be set for tonight. It's about 6 o'clock. It doesn't get dark till like 7:30, so I got some time to kill. So I'm going to wait till this heats up, gets to a full rolling boil, pour it in my chicken teriyaki, let it sit for about 5 minutes, and I'll be good to go for dinner. Alright, well, this sucker is at a rolling boil now. So I think it's safe to say I can turn this off, because this sucker is hot. Now that sputtering sound is gone, I'm going to go ahead and pour the 13 ounces in this little pot, or in this container. stir this up really good. There's nothing worse than getting chunks of powder in your dehydrated meal, you know what I mean? So I've had this teriyaki chicken before. It's really good. Some of the other brands aren't as good as these, but the Mountain House, I've yet to find a Mountain House meal that was not tasty, you know what I mean? Especially when you're in the backcountry. So I'm going to stir this up really good. Zip this closed. And let it set for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to rehydrate fully. Then I should be good to go with my dinner tonight. Mountain House teriyaki chicken. Well, I reckon it's been 15 minutes. Try my chicken teriyaki, see if it's any good. Looks like it's rehydrated pretty well. The only thing that I'm a little worried about is it's a 2-serving pouch. I usually don't eat 2 servings, I eat 1. So we'll see if I can finish this, because I really don't have any place to put it. You know, I'm sitting there thinking, why am I sitting in the dirt? I have a hammock. I ought to just be sitting in the hammock. It's still too hot. I'm going to have to let it sit for a bit while I get caught up on my hydration. I think tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back down by the creek first thing in the morning. And I'm going to fill up both water bottles and come back, use my bee-free, and use that water to make coffee. It's going to be at a rolling boil anyway, so I'll run it through the bee-free just to make extra sure that it's purified to drink. But I really don't know what would be around that would run downhill into this creek to pollute the water. I really can't see anything. There is some cattle around, but nothing close. So, but this is straight from the fridge at home. Still not as good as the beer, though. I did hang some accessory cord in the tree. And when I get ready for bed tonight, I am gonna hang my food up about, I don't know, probably about 10 feet off the ground, and it's about 10 feet out from the tree. It's actually a pretty good bear hang if I was to do a bear hang. I've never actually done bear hangs before because everywhere I go, you need a bear canister. So I'm just used to sitting everything in the bear canister, sitting at 50 yards away from camp on a rock somewhere and leaving it for the night. But here you don't need that because there's no bears. So I guess way back in the day, back in the 1800s, they were actually grizzly bears in the San Mateo mountain range. And the last one was killed, I don't know, in the late 1800s somewhere. So now we just got to deal with mountain lions. I also read on a forum post that in this area at night, all the mosquitoes come out. And when the mosquitoes and the black flies come out at dusk, the bats come out, and the bats eat the mosquitoes and the flies. So it wouldn't surprise me pretty soon here within the next hour to start seeing bats darting in and about the camp. As long as they don't land, as long as they don't land on my face. But anyways, a nice cool breeze blowing up the canyon right here. It's actually a really good spot. But I have to remember this. This is a good place to take somebody that's never been backpacking. Before you take them out on a 20-mile backpack trip in the Sierras, maybe you should take a 1.5 mile hike down here to Fisherman's Camp. Bring your sleeping bag, pitch your tent, play with your backpack stove, try a couple of backpack meals. Kind of do this as your shakedown hike before you head up to the Sierras or you go to Kings Canyon or wherever you end up going. And use this as a little test run. Doesn't cost anything. The permits are free. There's, unless you're going on Memorial Day or 4th of July or something, you probably don't even have to worry about permits. You just shoot an email off to the ranger at the Chibuco Ranger Station of the Cleveland National Forest, and they get it back to you in a couple of days. They send you an email with a link, and I printed it out and got it right here in my pocket. So in case a ranger comes by, I really doubt one's going to come by, but I do have a permit just in case. as long as you don't do fire. Fires out here would be deadly because this stuff is so dry, it would just take off like a tinderbox. And there's houses fairly close to the perimeter of the forest here, and they would all burn down, and they have before. So you just got to be extra careful up here. That's why they have those warning signs right when you come down the trail that no campfires allowed, and that's why there's no fire ring. So just as a reminder, it's kind of a bummer to be at a campsite with no fire, but if you want a campfire, you have to go to a campground and do it in an enclosed metal container, or head out to Anza Borrego somewhere and bring your own. But in the meantime, I'm gonna have to wait a few more minutes for that damn teriyaki chicken to cool down, then I can finish eating my my dinner tonight. You know, while I'm thinking about it, I might actually make a trip down to the water just to refill these tonight, so I don't have to do it in the morning. It's actually a good idea. Who knows, maybe I'll see some wildlife while I'm down there. Well, I'm heading down to the water just to top off my water bottles for the night. And I just wanted you to see all the poison oak that I've got to make it through here. It's on both sides of the trail. It's right here beside me. Both sides. So you really have to be careful. You come through. I wouldn't doubt that I've brushed it with my pants. So I'm a little nervous tonight about maybe touching my pants while I'm in my sleeping bag. So I might decide just to take those off, sleep in my underwear tonight. That's all I need is to, you know, touch my pants, I'd touch the poison oak, and then, you know, touch my skin, and the next thing you know, 2 or 3 days later. Anyway, I'm a little nervous about being down here at dusk because this is when the mountain lions start to hunt. The deer come out of their bedding areas right around dusk, and they come down here to the water to drink. So do the deer. And I'm a little nervous about bending over and not paying attention while I'm filtering. So I'm going to have to do a really good look around before I get busy filtering. And on top of it, there's poison oak here, along with wet, slippery rocks. So not only do I have to watch my step for the rocks, to watch my step for the poison oak, and make sure that when I bend over, I don't get attacked by a damn mountain lion. Anyway, I'm going to top off these bottles. I brought my Be Free, so I'm going to use that. Make sure I don't set this down in any poison oak. It just makes me so nervous. Bend down in the water like this. Now, one of these bottles is filtered water, and one of them is not, but I don't remember which one's which now. So to be safe, even though there was probably unfiltered water in that one, I'm going to go ahead and use the Be Free. Get some water flowing here and fill this one up. It'll probably take a couple of dips in the creek here. I don't know if you can hear it going in. It's going in pretty good. I should have tested it before I came out here. I haven't. Normally, like with a Sawyer, you back flush it. I've only used this once on a trip, and I haven't back flushed it or cleaned it. But it's working. Well, I can take a couple of trips here. I got about half a canteen full on that one. This fill ought to be a little faster. I just don't like being in a vulnerable position like this with, nobody watching your back. So far, I haven't seen any wildlife at all on this trip. I haven't seen any deer, coyotes, or almost full. Oh, there we go. I just topped off on that one. Now I'm all wet. That's okay. It'll dry. All right, there's one canteen full of purified water. Let's work on the next one. Can you believe back in the day there were steelhead trout here? It's hard to imagine. At some point years back, there was enough water here to sustain life for a fish. I could see maybe a trout, maybe little ones, fingerling trouts. So the beef free's flowing a little faster now, so this one's going to go a lot quicker. That's the one good thing about the beef freeze. The flow rate is a lot higher than that of a soy or squeeze, or even a gravity drip filter. Like this one was a lot faster. I'm over halfway on this one. The only thing bad about canteens is that they don't stand upright very nice. There's nothing worse than filtering your water and then setting it down and finding out that your canteen or your bladder or your water bottle fell over while you were waiting to filter again, and next thing you know, all that hard work is down the toilet. You know what I mean? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this one up, and whatever's left in the beef free, I'm going to top it off and save that for in the morning. This way I'll have almost 3 liters of water, filtered water, ready to go. Oh, there we go. Getting a bath over here. Anyway, that about does it. I'm going to fill up this one more time just to have it for camp, and then I'll be done. That's almost a whole liter right there. I survived without getting attacked by a mountain lion, which is always a good thing. Like I said, though, it still makes me nervous. You gotta have your head on a swivel when you're down here, Well, it's about, it's almost 8 o'clock, about 10 to 8 at night, and it's finally getting dark here in Fisherman's camp. I didn't see any mountain lions so far. I haven't seen any deer, coyotes, or bobcats. I did go down to the water to filter my 2 canteens full, so now I have 2 full liters plus another liter that's in the beef free that I just poured about half of it into my my little container so I can have coffee in the morning. And the other liter I'll use for my Mountain House biscuits and gravy mix. That's going to be my breakfast tomorrow before I head out. So, been a quiet night so far. A lot of noises out here, though. There's a lot of things in the brush. I hear cracking and popping, and I hear a lot of things. A lot of birds still tweeting. There's a dove and several other kinds of birds. I don't know what kind they are. They're still flying around, and now I hear crickets down by the water, and at some point I'm assuming the bats will be out. I haven't seen one yet, but I wouldn't doubt if they're going to be out. So in the meantime, I'm just going to chill here and camp a little bit longer, and then eventually when I get tired, I'll crawl in my sleeping bag, and hopefully I'll be able to get some sleep tonight. It's not supposed to be that cold. In fact, I was actually wearing my sweater earlier, and I took it off, and I'm probably going to use that in my sleeping bag under my feet, because the underquilt I'm using is only a 3/4 length underquilt, so everything from about the shins down is not going to be protected by the underquilt, so my legs might get a little cold. We'll see. I'm a little worried about poison oak exposure on my pants, because as careful as I was when I was going through the brush to get to the water, I wouldn't doubt if I brushed up against some poison oak. So I'm gonna cross my fingers on that one. I won't know for a couple days, but I won't have to go back down to the water again. And the brush between here and the car, there's only a few places where there's poison oak, and it's easily avoided on the trail. So I think as long as I didn't get any exposure down there by the creek, I'm probably okay. So anyway, I'm just gonna chill here and camp. I got nothing else to do really. My phone is on the charger recharging, and there's nobody else here to talk to. So I'm just gonna sit here for a little bit longer and then button up camp and then get some shut-eye. I sleep better in the hammock than I do at home, I swear. 1 hour in the hammock is about the same as 4 hours in the bed for me. So if I get 4 hours in the hammock, that's as restful as 8 hours or 12 hours at home. So I just hope I can sleep at least until dawn. We'll see. Hopefully I won't be awoken in the middle of the night by strange sounds in the brush. You know, I do have a pretty high power flashlight, and I have some protection here just in case. So I'll just have to keep it handy in case I need it tonight. Anyway, I'll check back with you again in the morning, and I'll let you know how I did. Well, it's about 9 o'clock at night, and something is just walking down through the creek, down the dry wash down there. I can hear it. I have to admit, it makes me a little nervous. I have a feeling that it's probably just a deer that's going down toward down the water to get something to drink. But it's just kind of spooky not knowing what it is, you know. And based on... Now I hear something over here. Yeah, I hear something else crackling in the bush over there. But the bad part is you really can't see anything because I'm pretty close to the brush. I don't think I'm going to get any sleep tonight. None at all. Well, good morning. I made it through the night. It was a little chilly, I gotta admit. I got a little cold in my little patrol bag. It's rated to about 45, 55 degrees, somewhere in there, and it's probably low 40s. And while the upper part of my body was warm, because I was wearing a sweater, lower part just got a thin piece of nylon from these hiking pants, and my feet got cold because that underquill is only a 3/4 length, so everything from about, I don't know, back of your calves down to your feet don't get covered by the underquill, and that cold just sucks the heat right out of your legs. So I got kind of chilly about 2:30 in the morning. I woke up and I had to pee and had to walk around a little bit, stomp my feet a little bit, and get some blood circulating back in my feet. And then I remembered I had a couple of these little hand warmer, instant hand warmers. So I put one in each sock, and those things are pretty much useless. I mean, the ones I have are useless. Don't even bother bringing those next time because they weren't that good. But anyway, so I ended up doing okay. I just had kind of a fitful sleep the last couple of hours. But now that it's morning, I gotta get my coffee going. I'm gonna do something different this time. Instead of using this Vea stove, I'm gonna use, this is basically a homemade Fancy Feast stove. It's made with a tomato sauce can, and it's a 4-ounce tomato sauce can and a little Fancy Feast cat food can, and they're nested inside one another with a little bit of insulation. So this is an alcohol stove, so there really isn't much priming with this one. And because it's an alcohol stove, you really can't see the see my breath pretty good. Tells you how cold it is this morning. can't really see the flames. I mean, you can a little bit, but anyway. The good thing about this, though, is that you don't really have to worry about it priming. Once it heats up, the flames shoot around the sides of the pot. And I've already preloaded my water that's already filtered. Like you can see the flames going pretty good now. This is going to be for my coffee this morning. Actually, I've got to get this in there while it's cold. If you've ever seen these before, these are a breakfast blend Starbucks cans. They're nice little pop-top cans. It basically makes a half a pot. So what I'm going to do is pour that in here. I'm basically going to make cowboy coffee this morning. I don't know if I'm going to need all of this. I have no way to save it. That looks like it's going to be about the right amount. I do have a little Ziploc baggie. I might be able to save some of this. Let me stir this around a little bit just so I can break the surface tension. And then I got to bring this to a good rolling boil. This is going to have to boil for about 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. Then I'll let it sit and pour just a little bit of cold water in there to get the grounds to sink to the bottom. And I should have some good cowboy coffee today. So, and then of course later on I want to have my biscuits and gravy over there. That'll be really good. I was going to pour the biscuits and gravy in a pot, but I might just eat it out of the bag so I don't have to do dishes this morning. But notice there's a lot of jets flying over. All night long there were jets flying over. So this must be a flight path. I remember one time years ago I did fly into, actually we flew into Long Beach from Salt Lake City. And for some reason we came in over like the Cajon Pass area, if you know where that is. And we swung wide to the east. And we came in directly over the top of the Santa Ana mountain range as we headed down into our final descent toward Long Beach Airport, which is probably about the same for LAX, I imagine, probably even John Wayne. And we flew right over the top of San Mateo Peak, which is just a few miles, 10 miles maybe, north of here. And all night long I kept hearing jets. And they weren't small little private planes, and they weren't military jets from Camp Pendleton, which is also not too far from here. These were commercial airliners, and they flew directly over the top, and I heard them all night long. But anyway, so it kind of kept me up a little bit, but for the most part, I did go to sleep probably about 9, and then that's when I heard all of the noise in the forest. I think 9 o'clock is the waking time for the animals around here, because I kept hearing cracks and pops and brush moving and branches breaking and things walking through the forest from 9 o'clock to about 11. And I got to admit I was a little nervous because from my spot in the hammock I didn't have the sides zipped up, the mesh, so I had a full view, like a 270 degree view from my hammock. And with my flashlight I was able to see kind of a little ways, not too far because the brush is right there, but boy, there was all kinds of things moving up in here, and there was a lot of stuff moving down in there, and I kept shining my flashlight, but I couldn't see anything. If I would have got up and actually maybe walked down to the little dry creek bed down there, I probably could have seen some movement, but my guess is they were most likely deer going down to get water, but you never know. I didn't see anything disturbed around camp. I didn't see any mice or rodents of any kind. I didn't see any possums or squirrels. I was a little worried about my food. I had my food hung in a little makeshift bear bag. There's a nice long arm of a tree over here, and I was able to toss some paracord over the top, and I had my food bag hung up about 10 feet off the ground and about 10 feet out from the tree, and nothing. So overall, I guess it was a quiet night, if you don't count the jet airliners and all the forest sounds. But I slept pretty good until I got too cold. And right now I'm still a little cold. I put, normally you can boil about 16 ounces of water with fancy feast stove. This one isn't a purchased one, it's the one I made, so it's not as good or as effective, but it does work really well. So hopefully 2 ounces will be plenty enough to bring this water to a boil for several minutes at least, enough to get this cowboy coffee going. So I tell you what, I could sure use the cowboy coffee this morning because I'm tired. Luckily though, after my breakfast and I get camp picked up, I only have a 1.5 mile walk back to the car, so it ought to be an easy walk. It is uphill. I noticed coming down here it was downhill, and it's going to be uphill heading back, but it's not that far. It's 1.5 miles. How bad could it get, you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm going to let this boil, and I'm going to go tidy up around camp, and maybe after this coffee gets going and I get my first cup down, I'm going to start making breakfast. And the coffee is at a rolling boil now. Wrong glove. Makes a difference. You can see this here. Coffee is at a nice rolling boil. We'll let that go for a few minutes. And meantime, I'm going to prepare my cooksa. Get that ready to go. I can keep these gloves on because it's cold. Oh, I know what I was going to look for. I have my honey stinger that's going to be breakfast this morning, along with my biscuits and gravy. But I've also got one other thing. I've got over here in my pack, I forgot that I had this. I actually have a second, at least I think I do. I do. I actually have a second coffee crisp. That's going to be really good. Now the only problem with an alcohol stove is you just can't turn it off. That's the problem. So what I'm going to have to do is, this is at a really nice rolling boil. I'm going to let this go another minute or two, and then I'm going to take the water off the stove, and I'm just going to set it over here to the side. I'm going to put this lid to this gas container over the top of my fancy feast stove and see if that's enough to shut the oxygen level down to turn this thing off. If not, I'll have to let it burn out on its own. I did put 2 full ounces of water, of alcohol in there, so might take a while. In fact, it looks like it's almost starting to sputter now. So it might not be that far from going out on its own. And it looked like the stove just went out on its own. So maybe that was the perfect amount. So what I need to do now is pour just, you know what, I don't need the windshield anymore. I can pour just a tiny bit of water in here just to break the surface tension. Then in a minute I'm going to have me some coffee. Actually, why wait a minute? Why don't we just do it now? See if I can do this without getting any grounds in it. Yeah, I'm spilling some of it. I don't know if you can see this color. This coffee. This coffee's nice and dark. I can do it without spilling it. Let that sit there for a moment because I know it's going to be hot. Well, that's pretty much going to do it for my coffee making this morning. I put a little bit of this creamer in it, and it's like a coconut milk creamer, and I got it because it was powdered. It was kind of like a powdered creamer, kind of like Cremora or whatever you used. It's Coffee Mate, because I like a little bit of milk in my coffee. And I didn't want to bring milk out here because I had nowhere to keep it cold. So I found this also at Marshall's or Ross or TJ Maxx, one of those stores. And I've used it before in the last backpack trip. It doesn't dissolve real well. And it has a little slight different taste than regular, like a powdered Coffee Mate you would get. And I didn't realize this until I looked at the package a couple days ago. It's actually keto creamer. And I'm not on a keto diet or anything, so it's something I'm not used to. But it does have a little bit of that cream flavor to it, and makes a big difference in the morning when you're having your coffee. The birds are all awake for sure today. They're up nice and early. They're out, I don't know, looking for nuts and seeds and worms and whatever birds do. But they're making all kinds of racket this morning. So in a little bit here, after I get a cup of coffee down and maybe eat my coffee crisp, I'll start packing up most of my camp, and then I'll do the last thing I'll do is I'll make the biscuits and gravy and have that. Then I'll pack up and head on out. So looks like so far, knock on wood, I survived my experience in the San Mateo wilderness. To be honest, I didn't see any wildlife. I didn't see any deer, or I didn't see any bobcats or coyotes or mountain lions or anything. I didn't even see a rabbit, which is kind of surprising because there is a really nice area here. They've got shade, they've got cover, they've got water, and there's never anybody down here. So this is the perfect location for animals. So I'm sure they're here. I just didn't see them. My main concern, though, is the poison oak, because there's a lot of it out here. And I wouldn't doubt if I have some on my pants. What I did notice, though, a lot of times poison oak leaves, they have like a waxy appearance to them. And that waxy, shiny appearance, that's the urushiol. That's the oil, the active ingredient that gives you the allergic reaction that causes the redness and the itching and the hives and the bumps and the blisters. And I didn't see any of that. So maybe it's because it's early in the year and it hasn't gotten long enough for them to develop that waxy, oily coating yet. So I got my fingers crossed. I got my fingers crossed, and hopefully I didn't get exposed to anything on the trip out here. I tell you what, as soon as I get home, pants, I'm stripping down in the garage, and all this is going right in the washing machine just to be safe. The coffee's actually pretty good. The Starbucks, actually, breakfast blend. I'm not a big Starbucks person, but this Starbucks coffee's actually not bad. And the first little cup down, no grounds. See how well I do in the second cup. The key is to pour it slow, but you got to pour it fast enough where you don't dribble it all down the side like I did in the first cup. Anyway, time for my coffee crisp this morning. Get me going. I'm glad I bought two of these because this looks good. Well, this will be our last view of Fisherman's Camp for this episode. Fisherman's Camp is down there in the sycamores and the oaks. There's San Mateo Creek down there. And in fact, down in the bottom was where I was filtering the water yesterday. And you can also see the trail that's coming down from sort of, I guess, where Tanaha Falls are. That must be the high trail that doesn't fall along the creek. And we're going to be going up to the right, looks like, for the morning part of this hike in the shade, which will be nice. Well, I'm hiking out of the canyon. I'm back up here in the more exposed section of trail. The sun's starting to beat down on me, but even though the sun is out, it's nice. It's nice to see the wildflowers starting to come out. A little bit of everything, a little bit of gold and orange and blue and purple and red. There's a little bit of breeze blowing through. The bees are buzzing. It's actually a gorgeous spring day. I know it's supposed to really heat up over the next several days. In fact, this area of trail probably on today's Tuesday or Wednesday, on Friday, it's supposed to be almost 90, maybe even 95. So I'm glad I'm doing this trail now, because this section, being out in the open, would get really, really hot. But anyway, not too far from the car, less than a half mile, I imagine. And it'd be nice to take the load off my back and make a stop on the way home, get a big drink, like an ice cold Coke or something. That always sounds good, you know? But in the meantime, I'm gonna miss this canyon. That's the trail over there that always goes over toward the falls. And I'll be back at the car here shortly. I'll catch up with you here in a minute. Well, I made it back to the trailhead. I'm back at the Fisherman's Camp trailhead at the top of San Mateo Creek. It's been a good adventure. I parked here yesterday. I hiked about a mile, 1.6, 1.7 miles from the trailhead here down into Fisherman's Camp, which is an old fishing camp. It dates way back into the early 1950s. And set up my hammock down there, camped out overnight, and made a couple of trips down to the water's edge of San Mateo Creek just to refill my water bottles, and had a nice night. It's pretty quiet. A little chilly this morning. It was probably in the low 40s, but nothing I haven't dealt with before. When we go to the Sierras, it's usually in the upper 20s, low 30s. So I didn't have my good sleeping bag. I brought a U.S. Army patrol bag, which is rated about 40 or 50. So I was a little chilly about 2:33 in the morning, but not a big deal. Anyway, it's been a good adventure. And hopefully next time I come back here, it'll be after a big rain, and I'll be able to go over to the falls and check that out. I haven't been there in a few years. So anyway, take care. Click and subscribe to the channel. This way you don't miss any new future episodes of the Hiking Journal. And I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, thanks for sticking with me through this edition of the San Mateo Canyon Wilderness Adventure. In my next episode, in fact, that's what I'm working on now, is the editing. I took a day hike up to the top of Margarita Peak, and I also drove along a four-wheel drive truck trail, and then I did the last section on a hike up to Margarita Lookout. That's on the very far western edge of the Cleveland National Forest, where it borders at the Camp Pendleton. So that was a really interesting hike, a really difficult hike on a really hot day, and I shot quite a bit of video on that one as well. So that'll be coming up in the next episode of the Hiking Journal. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. Be sure to click and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future episodes. And I'll see you on the next adventure as I hike up to Margarita Peak. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, we finally reached Margarita Peak. There's not a I don't see a summit register, but so there's a map of some kind. I'll scout around a little bit, see if I can find a summit register. Oh man, I think this is one of the hardest peaks I've ever been to. This was an ass kicker, man. A little nauseated. I might have to get something to eat here. Hydrate a little better. It's really hot. There's some swallowtail butterflies flying around and quite a few bees. So I'm not going to hang out here long. I'm gonna start heading down. I got to get back to the truck. I got to get back to the Jeep and get some more hydration. I got an ice cold Gatorade and an ice chest. It's going to take me a while to get down. I'm going to have to actually extend the legs on my tripod and use that as a trekking pole going down because it's really steep. It's 10:20. I have a little bit of a scratch. I got a couple of scratches. I found one. I got more than that, I guess. A little bloody. So I already found one tick. There's probably more. But it was quite an accomplishment. I'll tell you what, it's not something I'm going to do again. Take a break for a minute, get a little snack, and then start heading back down.